Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners Zoom pre-agenda meeting for Tuesday, February the 2nd, 2021. It's 3 p.m. At this time, I will ask you to silence your mobile devices and also ask you to mute your microphones in the event that there's background noises so that we will have as least interruption as possible. And I'll ask you to identify yourself before speaking or making motions so that we know who's talking for sure, and our clerk can give good recording. At this time, gentlemen, I'll call us to order, and I believe we'll do a roll call, Madam Clerk. Morwee. Mr. Morwee.
Present.
Abley.
Present.
Carswell.
Present.
Taylor.
Present.
And of course, I'm present. Don't believe I've seen Brian. You out there, Brian?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think I saw JR. I'll declare us present with the manager and the attorney, Madam Clerk. With that, we'll move to item number 2, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, you had the agenda for several days. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Wayne Abley, so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. Morwee.
Yes.
Carswell.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That'll be 5-0. This brings us to item 3, presentations. We'll begin with item number 1, community development, update on the Fonta Flora State Trail. This will be presented by Scott Carpenter, our Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. And
thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. We actually started working and looking at the Fonta Flora State Trail when it was actually the Lake James Loop Trail way back in 2013. It's hard to believe that I've been bringing different things to you all for 8 years now, but we are making good progress around the lake, and I just want to briefly go through and give you an update on where we are today and our anticipated timeline to finish the loop and some of the projects. Next slide, please. And that, of course, is a view from our trail. That was the first 5 miles that were built on the trail in 2016. And as we go around the lake, we're always after views of Lake James. So next slide, please. So 2015 is when we first started making some progress at Lake James. And we had, at the end of 2015, 7.31 miles of trail. If you see that little orange section at the top of your page, that was an existing section of Mountains to the Sea Trail, which was about 2.5 miles long. And this other section that's in what looks like a horseshoe, that is a section that runs from our County Park trailhead over to Wolf Pit Road. And I actually worked on that and dug most of that by hand. That was about 1.25 miles. That's before we had any money at all to do any trail building, and we were waiting for Duke Energy to release money to us. The section over on your left side is what was the existing Overmountain Victory National Historic Trail that also ran through 1780. And so most of 6 miles was existing, and we only got about 1 1/3 miles built in 2015. Next slide, please. In 2016, money was released from Duke Energy to us in the form of about $540,000 to start building the loop around Lake James. We also had $650,000 to start building Over Mountain Victory National Historic Trail. But as you'll see, as we go through the slides, we have methodically held on to most of that funding. And you can see in the top part of this, the first trail sections that were built is 5.1 miles of trail at the county park. And that's where that earlier view came from. Next slide. In 2017, we were able to build 5.4 miles of new trail. We built sections for, at Harris Wisnet that ran through South Point, and we also built a section of trail from South Point to the county park. So we started really closing in on finishing the north side of the lake, the northeast side, however you want to look at it. If we go to 2018, we had a very busy year in 2018. We built 7.6 miles of trail, and you can see it as it heads down Long Arm from where the Linville River is. I would point at these things if I had a way to point at them, but yes, that's right. And then it takes us there to the Cove Bridge. If we go to the next slide, we're at 2020. So we just finished that up. So you don't see a whole lot of changes from the 2018 to the 2020 in terms of miles of trail showing up on the ground. And I'll show you why shortly. But in those 2 years, we built 1.5 miles of trail. So we built the Linville access to the Linville River. And that's where we also had those special projects going on. So we had to do cribbing, which is a process of putting boards on steep banks, filling them in with riprap, doing drainage. And it's a very tedious and expensive process and slow moving. We also built a 550-foot boardwalk during that time frame. We did armoring. We did easement acquisitions. We also did numerous improvements at the county park trailhead, which included putting in a parking area, clearing a field, putting in an ADA loop 0.8 mile handicap trail there. We put in a bathroom there. So we did actually a lot of projects that were putting the facilities in place. So if we go on to the next slide, you can see what we anticipate on doing over the next several years. And I apologize that this looks so busy, but there's some major things for me to point out. The bridge across the cove is $1 million bridge, and that is now up at the state park, connecting the orange to the pink where it says 2021 at Patty's Creek. So that bridge is coming across right now, and they'll be working on the ends of each of that and moving us across the Patty's Creek section. We have slowed down a little on the making it over to Canal Bridge here because of some planning issues with state parks and them showing where the actual Fauna Flora Trail is going to be. You can see also up on the left middle of the page with the pink that says 2021, we will build out and we will be to McDowell County. And that's a good goal and a good mark. Also in 2021, the state park will build a section at Canal Bridge that goes all the way down to the old Catawba Riverbed. From there, we'll be moving forward with plans, as you can see, in 2022, all the way around to Bridgewater. So when we make it over to Bridgewater, we are really heading around the lake. As you're aware, we also have been working on engineering and design down Powerhouse Road. So some of those things became a little bit expensive, and we have decided to reroute and follow and build over Mountain Victory Trail. So if you see the purple heading to the bottom right corner and the blue, that's following the Catawba River. And we already have all those easements. So we're ready to build that. And then when we get over there, we're going to head back up to where the light blue is, and we will join up at Powerhouse eventually, and then Cobb, and we hope to do that in 2024, 2025. By 2026, we hope we're heading to Glen Alpine. So I have one easement I have to get, and basically we'll be at Glen Alpine. So we're making progress and hoping that money and other things, grants, continue. Next slide, please. This is an older slide. I think it's now 2 years old. And at the time, all the expenditures and the federal grants, the gifted land and all those types of things came out to about $8,735,000. You can figure that today that's probably rounded up to about $10 million of investments and expenditures on the trail. That includes those categories. And it's more than that if you want to go into what State Parks is spending on the trail. So they're spending quite a bit on it as well. Next slide, please. I wanted to show you a couple of examples. All the next slides are just all pictures of things we've been working on. So this is a crib wall. This is what we do when we get into areas that are very steep and we don't want to cut into the bank too much. And also we do it beside roads where DOT tells us we really don't want you cutting our embankment because it might compromise the road. So we do these 8-inch logs stacked, and then they're cross-tied. They're filled with riprap. Then they have another layer of stone on top of them, and we finish that out. This is an expensive process, about $150 a foot. So it's cheaper than a lot of the other trail things that people are doing. Next slide, please. That is our county park bathroom, and it was put in 2019. We have received a whole lot of compliments and a lot of kudos to the commissioners for putting this in and seeing to the needs of the people. It is a very busy trailhead. We are just slammed all the time. Next slide, please. 2020, last year, we did a design build on this parking lot. So this parking lot you see has a curve to it on the left side. It's really pronounced. We managed to get in 26 spaces there. And where I'm standing, you can see me there on the right-hand side. Coming toward the bottom of the picture is we're putting in an additional 4 spaces for gravel. And on the weekends, there's not a parking place to be had there. So next slide, please. This is an area that we cleared out. Staff did most of all this clearing with chainsaws and with tractors. Treg McGee, myself, and Shane, and just a whole bunch of us were out there working on this thing. And then when the heavy equipment came in for the parking lot, they were kind enough to clean this up for us and to burn out there and to get rid of all the debris. We had a ton of debris because this was a forest. And so now we have cleared this so that there's a future playground area available, as well as a place for people to take their dogs. And there is a loop of 0.8 miles that's ADA accessible for people that show up with their families or when the trails are closed or whatever, and they can walk. So next slide, please. That's the covered bridge, which I'm sure that you all remember. And I tell you, a lot of people stop there, they take pictures, and I see people with wedding things going on there. People just like to walk to that as a destination. It's a good design, but it also is one of the things that we try to put along the trail to make it special. And I think that it has been very successful in doing that. Next slide, please. So last year, this is a 550-foot boardwalk that runs from Linville access area around that curve that you all are probably, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. And this is actually a rolling contour bridge, which is actually a very high design. And it takes a lot of skill to do that. And our West Virginia crew put this in, and it has wonderful views of the lake as you walk around it. Next slide, please. That's a little bit grainy, that picture, but if you're just looking over the edge of the boardwalk towards where the sun was setting, you can see the type of views that you get as you walk around the boardwalk. Next slide, please. I meant to update this picture with the actual picture of the Cove Bridge. So right now, when you ride out the 7 miles from Linville River, you come to where the bridge is going across, and that's where the State Park Visitor Center is going to be, is right there on the other side of that. That's a 200-foot single span bridge that went in, and it is steel, and it has a rusted architectural look to it because, you know, most of the things we want to do with Final Flora Trail are rustic in nature and by design. So I will get you all an updated picture, and I'll just send that to you directly, or I'll have it for the other meeting. Next slide, please. This is a design and a concept that you all heard me going on about for several years, and it's actually a viewing platform that I would like to see built at the county park, but not just the county park. I'd like to see another platform built at the state park where the new visitor center is going, looking at Shortoff, and I'd like to see Duke Energy build one at Linville Dam, looking at South Mountains and across at Black Mountains. And then this is actually all iron. The nest part would all be hand hammered steel by blacksmiths at Oak Hill Iron or somewhere similar. We have an estimate on this at about $140,000. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if you put 3 of these strategically located at the lake, it really makes an impression and makes for a good thing to have, you know what I mean, or that draws tourists. So next slide, please. This is one of the concept drawings to come across Linville Dam. This is basically what it will look like. The materials might be a little bit different, but right now we're working on finishing up a contract with an engineer and a design team. And we're also working with Duke Energy and their dam safety people and engineers, as well as Duke Energy Recreation. So this is in the FERC zone. So this has to have FERC approval along the way. We hope to build this thing. We don't know if we'll have money. The design will be finished in 2021 this year, but we're looking at 2023 to 2025 on this. And there's several projects that are going on in this area that's going to make this a destination, including a pocket park at the end of this boardwalk, which is where I wanted another one of those overlooks built that looks like a nest. And at the bottom, Bridgewater is going in the new parking lot there. So we're building a loop trail at this area that takes you from Bridgewater up to the pocket park across Linville Dam, and then drops back down to Bridgewater. Next slide, please. So another effort that I think we really need to start thinking about in 2021 is we have got to start raising money for the trail and for different types of things. One of those types of things that I envision is that Fauna Flora Brewery has agreed that they're going to release a Trail Pale Ale, Fauna Flora Trail Pale Ale this year, and 10% of the proceeds would probably come back to our Parks and Recreation Department and be distributed for use on the trails around Lake James. But we're also looking at other ways of raising money, and that will be an effort because once you build these trails, the maintenance is quite expensive and it's always going to be ongoing, but we are bringing in a lot of people. Next slide, please. I just wanted to show you another section to show that it's not just Lake James that people are building on Fauna Flora Trail. This is a section at Old Fort that will connect into Old Fort and all the way up to Black Mountain. So they're working diligently on their section. Old Fort is trying to get in the trail business as well. And as their trail does well, hopefully that will provide some energy heading towards Marion and from Marion over to us at Lake James. Next slide, please. Hey, look at there. So there's Cinnamon, the prettiest dog in the county. That's my dog. And I thought it was sort of interesting that I had the prettiest cow in the county and the prettiest dog in the county. But I just wanted to share that, and I'm happy to answer any questions you fine gentlemen have.
All right, thank you, Scott. We won't vote on that prettiest dog and prettiest cow. But any questions for Scott on his presentation?
Mr. Chairman, one quick question. Scott, you and I have spoken about it. What do we,
Okay.
is there anything as that we can do that can expedite the process you and I talked about as far as hitting a point at the state parks where I know there's been a change in staff down up there, and there's different ideas that are being revisited after we thought we actually had the trail design done in that area. We could conceivably get most of this done all the way around the lake and still be at the canal, at that Cove Bridge. Is that not true if we don't get some movement from Raleigh?
We need for Raleigh to allow, I think, the local superintendent of Lake James State Park to have more trail building decision-making authority. And we also have the Canal Bridge. So we have to engineer, design a crossing across Canal Bridge as well. And that's going to be another project. And that might be, we don't know what that's going to cost. We're thinking it's going to be a $300,000 retrofit to get a rail across there that's acceptable for bikes and pedestrians, and to put in a physical barrier for pedestrians and cars to separate them. So we definitely need the state parks to make decisions on how the Fauna Flora Trail will go through the Patty's Creek section and connect from the visitor center to Canal Bridge.
Okay. Well, I know Nora's been a good partner, but I know she's only got so much ability. It goes to the state level. So if there's anything
Yes.
we can do, please let us know, because you're doing a heck of a job, and I'd hate to see anything hold up the progress we're making. That's it.
Well, thanks so much. And I think it's important for the state to realize just how much Burke County has put into this, and that this is an economic development initiative, and it's a very important one, just like the School of Science and Math. That draws on one group of people and money. This one draws on regional people and bringing in money as well. But it's building Burke County's tourism. So I think it's important. And that's all I have.
Other
Mr. Chairman, one quick question to Scott, if I may. Scott, the biggest committed individual or group was Duke Power. You didn't mention them in the future. Are they about, I hate to use the word used up, but has their funds about depleted? Or what?
No, sir.
Can we expect them to continue to be a party of these trails?
Duke Energy is always a party. They have been wonderful to us
Yes,
through the
they have.
years. I still have almost a $500,000 in Over Mountain Victory National Historic Trail money to use, but it's very specific on where it can be used, and so it could not be used on most of the loop around the lake or through the state park. But we will be using it as we go to Bridgewater, as we build the sections along the Catawba River, and as we make our way over towards Glen Alpine.
Any idea how far that 500,000 will go on those trails?
It doesn't go as far as you like, especially if you have to build a structure. So
Yes.
if you have to build a structure and do cribbing or build retaining walls and bridges, it goes real quickly.
All right, thank you.
But we use it to match other grants. So it'll go 3 times farther than the actual amount.
Other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for consensus on this item. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes. So, Madam Clerk, 5-0, this item will remain on presentations. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 2 on presentations today is Friends of the Fontaflora State Trail. Glad to have Judge Robert Hunter with us, and I think maybe Beth Hiley is also out there. And Judge Hunter, we'll open the floor to you, and if you have others you want to recognize, please do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to present to y'all today, and I'm glad we were able to hear the presentation by Scott Carpenter, who's I think we all say was kind of birthed this trail and was able to get it going, and got Hugh Blackwell and others to introduce the legislation that made it a state trail, one of 9 state trails now, and we'll talk about that in the future. Also, of course, I'll introduce our board members as we go here in a minute, but I also want to compliment, besides Scott, and he has been so helpful. I want to thank y'all for Shane. He has really been so good to work with. He has done a lot for y'all, and he knows so much about trails. He's on the Friends of Lake James State Park Board, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But he's also been up to McDowell County, to Black Bear, to Old Fort, and he has been very, very helpful to our new group, the Friends of Fontaflora State Trail, Inc. So you see there the trail, you know that, from downtown Morganton, and it goes through obviously Glen Alpine, around the lake, Marion, Old Fort, Black Mountain, and on into Asheville with the 3 counties of Burke, McDowell, and Buncombe. Okay, if we could have the next slide. This is exciting here. This is pictures that were made at the groundbreaking of the Visitor Center, and also the presentation, the first presentation that was done on the Friends of Fontaflora State Trail concept, and then the drawing there of the new Visitor Center. And why is this significant? And of course, the Friends of Fontaflora State Trail, Inc., the concept grew out of the Friends of Lake James State Park board meetings. And we had been hearing a lot about Burke County's success in doing things for getting the trail going, and y'all got a great start. And thanks to Scott and Duke Power and all the others that you had and the commissioner's willingness to support it. So that's been very, very important. Well, we kept hearing about that, and the economic development director from McDowell wanted to come down. He'd heard me talk about what Burke was doing, and he wanted to come down and present what McDowell was doing and going to do. And he started making a presentation and talking about how we're going to get around from the lake, Burke County, up through McDowell, and Bryant Lindsay, who y'all know very well, is on that group, and he said, you need a friends group. And Chuck kept talking, and Bryant said again, you need a friends group. Chuck kept talking, and finally I said, Chuck, we need a friends group. So that's how that started back, I believe it was October, over a year ago. And from that, we said, well, we're going to have the groundbreaking of the visitor center. We've got all these people from the 3 counties going to be coming, and we've got the people from Raleigh. Why don't we do a presentation about the Fauna Flora State Trail and see if we can't get this going and take it from probably completing the whole thing from a 30-year to a 10-year presentation. And so we had a presentation after that groundbreaking, and the presentation was down at the Fauna Flora Brewery. And Shane helped us put all that together and did a wonderful job. We actually made a drone video that we showed, and we still have that. We need to update it some, and we'll be doing that. But from there, everybody, we had over 100 people there. Everybody seemed to be very positive, and we had the state officials. They were all impressed, and some of y'all and your people were there. So we were pleased with how that went. I was, some of you may know a little bit about my background. I was in the legislature for a number of years, and I represented a little piece of Burke County, but only a couple pieces up in the northern area around the lake and there. But both McDowell and Yancey and both McDowell and Burke counties wanted a state park. And so the chambers were each talking about each wanting a state park. So Ray Fletcher, he was my good buddy, and I love Ray. I wish he was still around. Ray and I got together and said, if we're ever going to get a state park there, we've got to get both counties together. So we started working and in the legislature, and we got the planning money and then the money to buy the land and then to build it. And at that time, the only thing that Duke or Crescent would sell us was the Catawba area. And so that was the start of the Lake James State Park and the cooperation between the 2 counties, and the Friends group that supports that park. Eric Jenkins is a wonderful chairman, and I was vice chairman for a number of years. And then I transitioned off last year. I'm still on as emeritus, but transitioned off so I could lead the Friends of the Fauna Flora State Trail. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through, and how maybe we might can help Scott with some of these things that y'all need. Next slide, please. Okay. If you look there, we decided the best way to, with these 3 counties, to do a Friends group was to have representation from each one of the 9 local governments. And so that's 3 from each county. So you'll see there from, we'll do Burke County there, and you've got, we had one from each of your 3 local governments. So Johnny Carswell, your vice chairman, sits on that. Butch McSwain from the city of Morganton, and also the mayor of Glen Alpine there. And then we have from each of the 3 counties, we have a trails person, and that is or was Beth Heilig, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then your economic development type person is Ed Phillips with your TDA. And we have a similar board representation from each one of those 3 counties. We also recognized that we needed the expertise of the people who work for these various local governments and others. And so we have an advisory council that Shane is on, and others from all over the 3 counties, and they'll be working to help us with the technical things that we need and the expertise things we need in bringing ideas to the board. I want to point out our 4 designated slots on the board. I represent the Friends of Lake James State Park, and then the Foothills Conservancy, Andrew Cota. Y'all know Andrew. He's been really wonderful in helping us. And then the Western North Carolina YMCA is Tim Blinko. He's in Buncombe County. And a healthcare foundation person we wanted, and that's Meg White, who is with the Western North Carolina Bridge Foundation, which you probably don't know about, but you might have heard of Care Partners, which is part of a Mission Hospital. And that's now been sold to HCA, and she's their development officer, and she's going to be our grant expert. So that's kind of our board structure. We got our 501c3, the contributions are deductible, and we've been meeting and getting organized since that time. The county of McDowell County loaned me Blair Melton, who's their head rec person, and they let me have her for a good while. They had to pull her back into doing her other job as well, but I couldn't have done it without her, and I have spent a lot of time on this, and I've got to back off some, but we've got Beth now that I'm going to talk about and let her talk about in a minute, but and that's going to really be a big asset, not only to the Friends group, but to all these three counties and what you'll be able to do. Next slide, please, and I'll try to get through some of these. This is just showing the trail again from Morganton, how it goes around the lake and on up to Asheville. That feather up there, which is, as you know, has been adopted for kind of our logo, that's an Old Fort on the building there. That Old Fort has really gotten involved, and we'll talk about that in a second. The next slide, please. Okay. And Scott mentioned this. This is kind of what's going on in Old Fort. If you look there, you got the town, you got the Friends of Fauna Flora, the G5 Trail Initiative. That is really significant. That's the 5 counties in the Grandfather Pisgah District, and they've got a major trail initiative going on that's going to build 40 miles to complement the 30 miles they already have. McDowell County is involved. The Forest Service, I mentioned, the Old Fort Ride House. That's one of the new major businesses in Old Fort. It's a big cycling center. It's a part of Kitsbo that you see there, which is a high-end bicycle clothing manufacturer that's there, and they have really gotten involved. One of their owners is on our boards, our secretary, Jen Billstrom. The photograph in the middle there is Old Fort on the Move. That's a Black-led group that's gotten organized, that's really working to promote Old Fort, and they're really involved with the G5 project and others. And so a lot going on. McDowell Tech, that I'll show you on the next slide, and I'll mention that, but that's very significant. Hillman Brewery, Old Fort finally has a brewery there, and it's been a great deal to them. And then, of course, that's talking about a site. We'll talk about that in a minute. Camp Greer is building trail up there. Foothills Conservancy is helping them, and that's going to be a big part of this McDowell Tech effort. So next slide, please. McDowell Tech is presently going to be establishing, and I just saw an article yesterday. It's going to be the second one in the state for a trail construction and sustainability program. And they're going to be bringing in and training people to build and maintain all kinds of trails. It's going to be located in Old Fort in a building there that's being renovated. They've even offered us office space there. But that is going to bring in a lot of people to all these trails that are being built up there and going on. And Camp Greer will be a site for people to come there while they're taking these courses and stay at Camp Greer. Next slide, please. This is the Old Fort site that's really going to make a big difference up there. It's been well over a year now. Some people in Old Fort said there's some bond money available, and they wanted to buy some property that was there to build a trailhead and a park for Old Fort. So we've worked on that from the beginning, I was involved with the people who owned that property. The state bought that property, and they had it appraised, and the owners agreed for what the state had appraised to sell it, and the state bought it and has now leased it to the town of Old Fort for $1 a year, and that's going to be a trailhead and a park. And that's going to be significant. Yesterday, we had a nice meeting up there in Old Fort with Ed Woolridge and Beth and myself and the Old Fort and the county people. We're going to be working, and we've got a part of grant that we expect to get in August. We've never had a part of grant for Old Fort, but that's a $300,000 application. They've got to match $300,000. The little old town of Old Fort doesn't have that money. We got them to agree to put up $100,000. We got the county to agree to put up $100,000, and we raised from a private donor another $100,000. And there's 2 old abandoned houses on that had to be removed. It had asbestos. We just raised $20,000 to get that done from 2 volunteer donors. So we've been really involved in what's going on up there. That'll come through Old Fort, go over and connect that through Camp Greer and then the Point Lookout. And Point Lookout has already been built. It's in the Pisgah Forest, and that goes to Ridgecrest. We're working with the new owners of Ridgecrest up there to get some additional easements and trails, and then it'll go into Black Mountain. So Black Mountain is very, very interested in this connecting up. You may have heard Buncombe and Asheville has said that they cannot be involved with helping fund this Friends group this year. And so that's, we hated to see that, but quite frankly, they've got a bunch of trails going on up there that's not part of Fauna Flora. And plus they got so many people coming into Buncombe and Asheville, they don't need the trails like Burke and McDowell does for economic development. But I would mention the McDowell TDA is doing a major effort, and Destinations by Design is involved with that, and this will be a part of it. But they're going to be spending a lot of money and branding McDowell County, and the trails are going to be a big part of that, the Fauna Flora State Trail. Next slide, please. When I got involved in this Friends group, it seemed like I immediately got involved with a new effort that was undergoing last year. Myself, Kate Dixon with Friends of the Mountains of the Sea Trail. She's executive director, Bill Holman with Land for Tomorrow. We've been to 3 key people. It's put together a proposal, and now we got all kinds of other trail groups. So it's a big group. Probably going to be renamed from the North Carolina Coalition of Trails to the Great Trails State Coalition. But we have sent a proposal to the governor and to the legislature, and you can see it there for construction and maintenance of trails. The state, and these are, as I mentioned, 9 state trails. The state has not put any designated money in them. So we're trying to work this year and with a major effort with the governor and the legislature to get this money from into parks. And then you see there the $2 million recurring for 9 state trails. That's really significant. We want $150,000 for each of the state trails. If we get that, we won't need to ask you for any money if we get that state, that $150,000, because that would let us operate with full-time person, executive director, and we wouldn't need to ask y'all for anything. And then the $650,000, that's to get leadership and support staff and state trails to be able to administer this. Right now, there's no director of state trails, so we want an assistant directorship in state parks for just for trails. The other money there is part of DOT, asking DOT funding. As you know, DOT has finally gotten involved in trails. McDowell has a project, Morganton has a project, and we've worked with the state to get those reactivated, and now those are, we've just gotten to go ahead, and I think that Morganton has as well, and the one in McDowell will connect the Catawba Greenway with the county park there and go on over to Tom Johnson's Camping Center. So that's what we're working on. Beth is on a group that we have of probably 15 people representing trails and conservation groups. It's the key people behind this. But basically every trails group, and we're going to be asking the local governments to get behind this and help us with this to get some designated funding for state trails. We've had some money in the state trails, but it's basically been like through the parks and in the park and part of. Next slide, please. You heard me start talking about funding. Our executive committee came up with a way that we felt like with these 9 local governments, we needed to come up with a way to be able to fund this organization, which is going to partnership with them and other partners like Foothills Conservancies and TDAs and others. But the local governments, we came up with this, and it was based on population. And you can see there the population for each one of the 9 state groups, how they fell, and the request. And to date, we've gotten from Glen Alpine, we've gotten their money, and Old Fort, we've gotten theirs, and Black Mountain, we've gotten theirs, Marion, we've gotten theirs. We've gotten McDowell County's money there. As I mentioned, we didn't get anything from from Buncombe or Asheville. Morganton, we made a presentation there. We got a good reception, but they have said they could not fund us any right now. I've had conversations with some of their city councilmen, and there'll be another request made to go in their July budget. We've got enough money to operate until July on a half-time director, Beth. We can't go past that if we don't get funding from Burke County and from Morganton. But we think that we'll be able to put more back into your county and your city governments, as well as all of these. Black Mountain, we probably won't be able to try to do anything for Asheville and Buncombe right now because they don't have any projects, except maybe right there at Ridgecrest. But we will be, and Beth can talk about this, a major membership drive will be going on starting very, very soon. Kim Epler, the executive director of the McDowell Chamber, is heading up that committee. And she's got some really exciting fundraising opportunities. So I think with what we're going to see with the trails in Burke County and McDowell County especially, you're going to see a lot more people coming, which is going to generate sales tax. You're going to see the tourism money come into the TDAs significantly. And we're going to have really good trailhead sites, Morganton, around the lake, Marion, and Old Fort and Black Mountain. Each one of those is like having at an interstate, you put up one restaurant, but if you got business, if you put up 4 or 5, everybody's got more business. And that we think that's where we can add value. What we're going to do, all the money that we raise, other than the basic membership fees for individual, is going to go into a separate account. And that's where we will have the money, and we will try to help y'all when you're going to be building trails in your areas. We're not going to be building trails. We're going to be helping you build trails and helping you maintain trails. So that's where we see as our value. And I think if you fund us and give us a shot, you'll see that you're going to get back more than what you put in. Let's see, there may be one more slide, I think. Yeah, there's the budget. We originally had a $150,000 budget. We had to cut it basically back in half when we didn't get Buncombe and Asheville. And you see our budget now, and we have our part-time executive director. She's been at work 2 days, but I'll say she was working as a volunteer and putting in a lot of time with us. And now we have her where she'll be half-time and devoted to helping Burke County and McDowell County and the Black Mountain area. I think that, is there one more slide? I think it does our mission. You can see the mission there is to bring together communities, and that means counties and local governments and volunteers to build, maintain, and promote the Final Floor State Trail connecting Buncombe, McDowell, and Burke counties for the enjoyment and education of people. That's kind of what I wanted to run through, and Beth may make some points if you will allow her to say a few things right now. Andrew Coda is involved with another meeting and couldn't be with us today, but I do see Ed Phillips, I think, is on, and we appreciate him being on our board as well.
Thank you,
And I'll
Judge.
answer questions too, if you want to get Beth, and then we can answer questions if you have some.
All right. Thank you, Judge Hunter. Appreciate your presentation and being with us today. Beth, any comments from you before I open the floor for questions?
Yes, thank you. I'm excited to be the executive director of the Friends of the Fonta Flora State Trail. I think we're going to make a huge difference across the 3-county area. I understand that everybody is at a different level, that Burke County's got it going on thanks to Scott Carpenter, and everything's moving along there and already very popular. I met with Old Fort yesterday as Bob was talking, and yeah, they're very different. They don't really have full-time staff. They need help on how to apply for grants, how to market, how to do anything and everything. So everybody's different, but I know we're going to offer to Burke County, you may need more help with maintaining trails. And this week when we launch our membership campaign and we get a huge volunteer base, we're going to be able to come out on certain work days, or if you have a storm, you need someone to call on, that we'll be able to help on that. And again, I know Burke County is way ahead of the game, but I think you'll all only increase in popularity and economic impact as the other counties are completed. So if someone's stopping in Marion to learn about the trail, then they'll say, oh, I'll head down to Morganton after this. Lastly, just real quick on fundraising idea that we'll coordinate with promotion is, I don't know if you've seen a Blue Ridge to the Beach type fundraiser that's encouraging people to do 475 miles. We want to start encouraging the same thing on the Fonta Flora State Trail. So of course now it'll be in segments and pieces, but as we grow year after year, that this would be a 100-mile challenge to complete the Fonta Flora State Trail over a certain period of time. You know, it would include stopping at different cities, different locations, different businesses to promote everything there is on the Fonta Flora State Trail. So I just want to let you know that I'm here, and this group's already supporting Burke County by making one job available to a person in Burke County, being myself. And I just look forward to being on call and helping Burke County and the rest of the trail in any way I can.
All right. Thank you, Beth. Gentlemen, any questions for Judge Hunter or Beth on this item?
Mr. Chairman, if you go back to page 35, just a second, and you see the ones that's committed and the ones that's not, and that includes, of course, both Morganton and Burke County. And from the presentations, I guess they were asking for 30,000 immediately, and I don't know. I think the manager suggested we wait and include it in the 21st, 22nd budget year. And question number 2 to that would be, when we obligate ourselves for that 30,000 budget item, is that an ongoing budget, or does it last 2 years, 3 years? I noticed in the presentation that they were thinking that somewhere down the road that they would no longer need a budget from us to continue their work. And I meant to say, first of all, and I'll say that to Judge Robert there, and also the lady, Beth, that it sure is nice to have those two people and that organization supporting a vision that Burke County has, and mainly with the help of our Scott, of course, who saw this vision more than any of us. And I guess the third question and the final question on this subject was, what happens? What do you do if Morganton or Burke County doesn't participate? And if somebody wanted to participate on an annual basis, what do you do when 2 or 3 of these committed entities decide, well, this is about all we can do. We've reached a limit. So, you know, if you can answer those 3 questions, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Let me try, Commissioner Taylor. First of all, The request is for Burke County for $30,000. As we've asked the other groups, we would like to have it now so we can get started and hire a staff, because that was key. When I first agreed to do this, everybody told me, if you're going to be successful as a group, you've got to have a director. And we'd like to have a full-time director, but since we lost Buncombe and Niceville, that's not possible. But we do have, thanks to Beth, she knows so much and she can do so much, and she's agreed to work for half-time. McDowell County has Blair. She'll still work on their county projects. Y'all have Scott and Shane, and they'll still be doing your projects. We're not going to do the projects for you. We stand ready to help, and we're going to encourage. We've got strategic committees in each of the 3 counties that will be starting to meet now. State Trails has asked us to give them a plan over 1, 3 to 5 years, and we're extending that out to 10 years as to how we get this trail built. Now, y'all have had a great start. We think we can help you even more, and some of these things and challenges that Scott has mentioned. One thing, Friends of Lake James State Trail, we work to really make that visitor center, keep it on track with the people in Raleigh. I met with them several times, and with the bridge, and that trail is going to go right through here. And when that trail comes through here and goes by across that bridge and by that visitor center, and it's going to be something. And I feel confident we can work out between Raleigh and the Friends group, and with our help and with Burke County, getting it out of the park in some way that will work for everyone. So we're asking for one-time money right now. Obviously, if we're successful, we would hope you would fund us again. We can get by till July if we have to, because of these other groups have put in that money. We can operate until July. If we don't get Burke, Morganton's is 10,000. You can see there. Burke is 30. I don't think we can continue to operate, quite frankly. But we are working for the state. You saw that proposal. That's going to be a major effort, one that I'll be spending a lot of time on, trying to get that money, Commissioner Taylor and others. If we get that money, if we get 150 for each, we won't need your money. And I certainly would hope that happens. If you fund us one time and you don't think you're getting any benefit out of it, don't fund us again. We only need it once in a calendar year. So if you fund us in July, that would give us enough to get by to the end of.
I'd like to also point out that I think Friends of the Fonta Flora State Trail will be the pilot program. So us going ahead and getting started while we're asking the state for money to fund each state park Friends group is going to be vital in our success. So if we get off the ground and you're showing support and we can show how successful we can be, then the state will take over funding and we won't need you anymore. The other thing a Friends group offers is, as you're applying for grants, we're being there to show that the community supports your efforts. So whether it's just letters of support or us being a 501c3 to accept your donations to use for your grant matching money, we're there to help in more ways than just hitting the trail. We also want to hit the banks and help you get more money and be an acceptance route for that.
And I think we can raise money in a way that the county can't get people. People pay their taxes and they say, well, I've already paid my taxes. Why do I need to contribute to the county? But I think we'll have the ability to go out into the community and help raise money for your projects, to take some of the burden off the matching, and hopefully to help you find other projects and to supplement what Scott and Shane have been doing. Did I answer all 3 of your questions, Commissioner Taylor?
I think the one on 38, page 38, I had it highlighted, but obviously we're not viewing my copies. We're somewhere down in that was a question. Keep going down. Yeah, that's the bottom, where the bottom paragraph is. and your request, that's why I wanted to kind of make sure that each of the commissioners saw that, because I think we were was intending on maybe making that a budget decision for next year, but as you can read there, starting with the second sentence, and this is for the commissioners, basically, the first contribution is needed immediately as we're ready to make the position to hire. So I just draw that to the attention of the commissioners, and we've got 2 weeks to think about it and plan. So I guess we'll have a decision for you by our regular budget meeting.
Okay, thank you again, Judge Hunter and
Thank y'all, Mr. Chairman.
Beth for being with us. Gentlemen, I think what I'd like to hear from this group at this point is we really have two directions we could go. I'd like to hear some direction from the board. We could leave this item on as a presentation with consideration during our budget, or if you so desire to make a decision on this item immediately, then we would need to move it, I think, to a decision item. So I'd like to hear some direction from the board or a motion from the board on which way to go.
Mr. Chairman, the motion usually is for your pre-agenda is to leave it on the agenda for next time, but the question to move it into decision, JR, are you there? Or either the county manager, what's your take on that? We usually are, normal form is you don't form any decision during pre-agenda, and that would be forming a decision.
Well, it's like taking a matter that's on the consent agenda and instead of keeping it on the consent agenda, moving it to decision. You all have the ability to do that by a majority vote in the pre-agenda meeting.
Do I hear any other suggestion on this matter? Hearing no other discussion or suggestion, I'm going to move that we leave this item on the pre-agenda as an item for presentation to then be considered during our budget discussions going forward. I'll take a vote on that. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
No.
and I'll vote yes. So that'll be 4-1, Madam Clerk. We will leave this item on for pre-agenda for presentation and then consideration during our budget considerations moving forward. Again, thanks Judge Hunter and Beth Hiley for being with us today, and we look forward to presentation during our regular meeting.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity. We really do.
Thank you.
Ellen Husband.
All right, this brings us to item number 3, TDA, financial update for the period ending December 31, 2020. This will be presented by Ed Phillips, our TDA CEO. Ed?
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you guys today based on the fourth quarter of 2020. As you can imagine, the COVID pandemic has had a tremendous impact on our tourism economy all over the world, and Burke County was no exception. Accommodations through April, May, and June saw a significant decrease. Early on in the pandemic, we were actually down 33% in occupancy tax receipts compared to 2019. During that period of early pandemic and no one knew exactly what was going to happen, we launched a Burke's Treasure social media campaign designed to reach Burke's most popular markets like Charlotte. And we actually had very good success with that, reaching 238,000 plus people with our message of Burke is a place to come and see our great outdoor treasures. In the summer of 2020, vacation rentals in Burke County were very good. That is the private residences and places that are rented as a house or bed and breakfast type place, Airbnbs. They were up, and we had a substantial number of vacation rental properties back in June. We counted them at 160. Just recently, we saw a downturn in that, and we counted 117 properties on December 31st. Let me tell you how we count those. So we go online just like anybody else would to make a reservation on Airbnb or VRBO and look for places that are in Burke County that are for rent. And that's the number that we came up with back in December, was 117. Now, some of those may have been taken off the market during the winter. Some places up, maybe Ginger Cake or up in the higher parts of Burke County, are taken out of the market, and those properties are winterized and they're not available. So those would not be there. So we're going to do another count here in June to see what we have compared to 2020. July, August, and September saw accommodations businesses begin to bounce back from the earlier shutdowns. And actually during that quarter, occupancy tax collections were actually up 1.5% over 2019. And what saved us was August. We had a really good August. And what also saved us was the addition of a new hotel in downtown Morganton, the Fairfield Inn, which added room availability here in an upscale hotel environment with a good rate, which also allowed us to collect more occupancy tax on those higher rates. One part of the hospitality business in Burke County that has been hit very hard has been the wedding and special event venues, with limits by the state on how many people could be inside a venue, including such things as the Old Rock School, which canceled their entire bluegrass season. And then the other venues in the county that were hurt by not allowing big events to be held there. Now, people came here to Burke County in the summer and in the fall to our outdoors, and it was viewed as a safe activity away from crowds, which turned out to be kind of not true, because we had a lot of crowds here in our outdoors. South Mountain State Park actually saw an increase of 30% in the number of visitors over 2019. Lake James State Park was down 38% over 2019. That was primarily due to the swimming area being closed for the entire season. So we did have some positive impacts with folks coming here and seeing their outdoors in our national forest and state parks. The TDA applied for, and we received $27,500 in marketing grants from the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. This was federal money that they then redistributed. And we had to abide by the federal CARES Act guidelines on how we spent that money to promote the safe outdoor in Burke County. You could come here and go to the national forest and the state parks. And I think next slide, please. I'd like to go through our budget with you very quickly. And again, this is through December 31st. And you can see our occupancy tax revenue budget. We had a very, we didn't know. We had a very unsure what was going to happen with people traveling. So we established a budget that was actually 50% below our previous year's budget. So we had $300,000 in budgeted revenue. We, as of December 31st, we've actually collected $223. And I now know that December has also come in. And so you got to remember, we're a little bit behind on the collecting the occupancy tax and the reporting. So December has come in at about 31,000. And so we're actually up to, I guess, about 240, 244, somewhere in that ballpark. And meeting with the finance officer and talking with Commissioner Mulvey about, who's also chairman of the TDA, about our budget. I think we are going to make our budget in revenue for occupancy tax this year. There's actually some positive signs of corporate and business travel coming back. The hotels have been doing a decent business on weekends with the folks coming here for the outdoors. And in the last few weeks, corporate travel is starting to pick up too during the week at both the Hampton Inn, the Comfort Inn, and also the Fairfield downtown. So feel good about our budget, the revenue coming in that will meet our budget, possibly exceed our budget. The future looks bright for travel here. Every week, the State Office of Tourism does a consumer sentiment survey to look and ask people, when are you planning to travel? When are you going to get back and get on the road and get out? For most people, of course, it is pandemic related and the safety of travel, but it's also vaccine related now when people can get their vaccines and feel safe to get out. But we're looking, I think, for a pretty decent late spring and summertime and then into the fall, if we can just get more people vaccinated. So next page, please. There we go. So as of December 31, 2020, you can see our assets there. We actually had in our checking account $356,000. We feel good about that, and we feel good that we're in a safe financial position in the middle of a pandemic. You know, you just don't know. But we have cut back on certain things and certain items. Marketing, we used grant money for our marketing of the wintertime with our winter hikes campaigns, among a few other things. If you look to the next slide, here we go. We actually used the CARES grant money, and this was all approved by the state before they even awarded the grant to us, in Raleigh, Charlotte area to promote coming to Burke County for winter hiking. And we were very successful with that and working with those magazines to get not only paid advertising in the form of an ad that we provided, but also editorial on Burke County. We also printed a Catawba Valley Ale Trail brochure using grant money, which pretty much links all of the breweries between Hickory and Old Fort. So it's McDowell, Burke, and Catawba County, and I think also maybe one or two in Caldwell County. We are about to finish a meeting facilities directory, which is a 20-page booklet about all the places in Burke County that you could hold a conference, a meeting, a wedding, whatever. And that will be going to press here shortly. Early on, the CARES Act said we had to spend all that money by December 31st. Well, then they changed that and said we had to spend it by the end of 2021. So we had a little bit of money we're carrying over to complete that meeting facilities guide. We also used CARES Act money in Facebook advertising. We produced and ran a winter in Burke County video, and we reached quite a few people with that. New Year's resolutions, winter hikes, get out. We've also installed an outside brochure rack, so people can pick up brochures and information on Burke County here now 24 hours a day, regardless if we were open. Right now we have closed the visitor center unless you have an appointment with us, or you can call us and we'll meet you at the door. But we do have quite a bit outside information now that people can pick up. And we actually used local companies, Appwood Doors and Oak Hill Iron, to help create the backboard and the brochure rack. So you can also see there's some visuals there on what we've done with the CARES Act money as far as marketing. The Burke County Meeting Facilities Guide, like I said, that's going to be going to press shortly. Our Burke Treasures campaign, that's actually taken a photo taken from Valdez Lakeside Park, looking across Lake Roadhis. And we just had a meeting today. We're going to start the Burke Treasures campaign again, and probably in March, to promote the treasures of Burke County. Winter Hikes, excellent view. So what you're looking at there is actually a center spread ad, 2 pages, that was in Lake Norman magazine in December. And that really bumped up our website traffic at discoverburkecounty.com from the Charlotte market. It was our #2 market for website traffic during December. And we feel confident that was because of that ad. And then the next one you'll see is another rendering. And this was in Raleigh, in Raleigh magazine, that was also online. And all of these ads that appeared in their print magazines also appeared on their website for each publication. And then the very last document is a map for the Catawba Valley Ale Trail that shows all the breweries from Old Fort to Hickory and even to Newton, Catawba Farms Winery and Brewery in Newton. So we have stayed quite busy marketing Burke County. I feel good about the future. I think tourists are going to come back once they feel safe to travel. A lot of them discovered the outdoors in Burke County this past summer and fall. Our trails are very important to us. We promote the Fauna Flora State Trail. We print brochures on the trail. And we market the trails quite a bit. So it is an important asset for us here. And I'd be willing to take any questions or comments, whatever.
All right, thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed on his report?
Mr. Chairman, I only have one, a good report, but if you looked on that balance sheet, the fund balance of last year was 150,000. It's 0 for this year, and I am assuming that sometime between now and the end of the year, that will be taken care of.
We may not have to use that. So
Okay.
that was kind of like fund balance, emergency funds in case we needed it. But it's quite possible we may not have to use it.
So you're the one that institutes that money to be spent.
That would be the board. That's correct.
Correct, okay.
Yeah.
It answered my question, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Ed, I guess our conference center, is it part of the events brochure?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions for Ed? Here none, I'll entertain consensus to leave this on the this presentation agenda item. Moe,
Yes, sir.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes. That's 5-0, Madam Clerk. With that, just before we begin our scheduled public hearings, I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess, and we will come back and continue at about 4:22 or 3.
Yep. That's the way it goes.
So I'm on it, but I just can't hear nothing.
Brian Tart, are you on there?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. This is Scott.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I just now heard you.
Okay. You can look at the bottom of your screen. There's a video and a mute button that pop up on the left bottom of your screen.
Okay.
Do you see those?
Yep. There I am. I'm here.
I don't see you myself. Do you see me? I just turned mine on.
I do not see you.
I think you have to click on participants.
So I got shared screen on.
Hey there, Beth Hiley. I see you. I see you.
Okay.
You
Hey,
have,
Scott, I left you a message earlier today.
I got it. I haven't had a
That's
chance to
fine.
respond to you.
I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate that. It's fantastic.
It's no problem at all, Beth. We're happy to assist in doing the easements and holding them.
I'll catch up with you tomorrow or sometime about it so I can learn all the details.
Well, I think the important thing is we need to figure out a way that as plans are coming in for minor subdivision or major subdivision, that somebody's checking those plans against the proposed route of the trail. Because once they subdivide, they're gone. They're hard to get.
Yeah, I had read about that in the paper, but when it said 7 to 10 acres, whatever, I just thought that was somewhere random in Road Hiss. I didn't realize it was their whole large property that I think is 60 or 70 acres. So it's good you're on top of that.
Yeah, they had called and wanted us to preview their plan before they submitted it. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
You'll do well. You're an energy ball.
I've learned so much from you. It's going to make it happen.
Those things aren't learned. They're in you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for that brief recess. And just as a matter of record, I'll have a quick roll call vote here. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I am present. So we're all here. With that, we'll come to back to item number 4, scheduled public hearings. And this will come from BDI, Building Reuse Grant for Project Parts, and public hearing presented by Alan Wood. Alan?
Thank you, Chairman Britton. This is a existing industry that is purchasing a new facility. We have it that it will be processed for a building reuse grant of $130,000. This will be submitted by the city of Morganton as the applicant. We are asking that Burke County participate in the 5% match. Your portion of this would be $3,250. This project is creating 16 jobs that are tied to this grant application. The total number of jobs is 31, that the job that they project, but the balance of those are outside of the 2 years that this grant covers. So the amount of jobs tied to this grant will be 16. They will pay higher than the county average, and they will include healthcare benefits. And the city of Morganton will be contracting with the COG to administer this grant if approved.
All right. Thank you, Alan. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. Any questions for Alan? Hearing none, I'll entertain consensus to leave this item on the agenda. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes. That'll be 5-0. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
This brings us to item number 5, consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda today is appointment of Burke County Animal Cruelty Investigators. This will be presented by Caitlin Settlemeyer, our Animal Services Director. Afternoon, Caitlin.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
We got you.
Ma'am.
Hey, we are requesting an appointment of 2 of our officers for animal cruelty investigators. You guys, the Board of Commissioners, can authorize 1 or more animal cruelty investigators to serve Burke County on an annual basis. We are requesting the appointment of Pete Aldridge, our enforcement supervisor, and Elizabeth Guffey, one of our enforcement officers, to serve as animal cruelty investigators for Burke County. For them to be considered every year, they would need 6 hours of pertinent continuing ed for reappointment in this position. Currently, our officers are going through national credentialing for their animal control duties. So they're working through that. They're getting a section within that training on animal cruelty investigations, and we plan to send them to a local training in October. That's when the next one is available, and we will request that funding in the next fiscal year budget.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin. Gentlemen, you've heard the information. Any questions for Caitlin?
Mr. Chairman, a couple of quick questions. Caitlin, we have nobody, according to your information, in those positions at this time?
Nobody is currently considered an animal cruelty investigator, no.
Okay. How many investigative requests have you received in, let's say, the last quarter of last year? October, November, December. Well, October, November, December.
Yeah, we took over in September. So since September, our animal enforcement officers get called out probably 2 to 3 times a day for potential cruelty investigations, animal welfare checks. From that, I would say probably about 6 to 10 of those have turned into actual cruelty investigations where we have issued citations, charges, things like that.
What is the dollar amount that will be added to your budget?
The local training is $150 per person, and that is through the Humane Society of the United States.
Okay, we don't have those people in position now, but we do have them as employees.
Yep, they are employed with Animal Services. Pete Aldridge is our supervisor, and Elizabeth Guffey is an officer.
Okay, so we won't be increasing your budget any, is that correct?
Not this fiscal year, it would be for next year. We would put in the request for training for that.
Okay, that's my questions. Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions for Caitlin? Okay, hearing no further questions, I'll entertain consensus to leave this item on the agenda. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes. That'll be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thanks, Caitlin. This brings us to item number 2, Burke County Public Schools presentation of financial data for the period ending December 31, 2020. This will be presented by Keith Lawson, a Burke County Public Schools Finance Officer. Keith, you out there?
I am. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Pleasure to be with you this afternoon to present Burke County Public Schools mid-year financial results. I'll cover the same 2 slides I cover with you all each quarter, so I won't get into the weeds. I'll make some points and certainly be happy to entertain any questions you may have. The first slide that you can see under the first 2 columns, under the header annual, you see a previous column that represents last year's sum total revenues for Burke County Public Schools at $109.8 million. The next column to the right, the current forecast, consists of what we currently project revenues to be for this year. And as you can see, that's up about $6 million. As you all are aware, we're still operating at the same state funding level as we did in 18-19. So the reason for the increase in the revenues, if you look at the state row, you can see that goes from 82.5 million the previous year, our current of 84.8. That consists of CARES funding that's been allocated to us and managed through the governor's office. Next down, you can see federal revenue projections. Again, a significant increase here of about 4 million. That represents CARES relief funding. All other funding sources are pretty consistent, relatively flat with the previous year, with the exception of our special revenue funding, which is our last funding source on the page here. You can see that that's down about $1 million. That's due to less Medicaid revenue projected, because obviously with kids not being in the classroom, we're delivering less Medicaid services to students, and also the financial impact on our daycare programs. So that being said, the next two columns under the header December year to date represent our mid-year spending. You can see that we have, through December of last year, spent $53.1 million. Through December of this current year, $54.1 million. So spending's up 2%, exactly where we expected it to be. You can see state spending's up 5.4%, exactly where we expected it to be. That's where the CARES relief funding from the governor's office was allocated to us, had to be spent. Deadline for that is coming past. That money has been utilized, so that spending's up. Federal revenue projections, you can see we're down year to year 6.5%. That'll certainly accelerate. Most of the first round of the CARES relief funding is due to be expended by March 31st. So we are spending that down and currently have most of it encumbered, and so that'll pick up. Our next slide, more specific, is the local. I'll just bring you over, if I may, to the 1920 column and point out there. You will notice under the 1920 column, revenues over and under expenditures, $207,000. Since our last quarterly meeting, our external audit has been completed, certified, and approved. We contributed $207,000 to fund balance last fiscal year. Over further to the right, and I'll take you just all the way to the right, you can see total projected revenues there, or spending is $8.172 million, 50% of projected spending. So we're right on target. I will say that we're about $350,000 behind spending at this same point through last year. As a result of that and savings resulting in facility costs with children not being in the classroom, I am projecting, rather than using fund balance this year, a contribution to fund balance somewhere in the neighborhood of probably $500,000 to $600,000. I'll conclude with that. I would like to say, on behalf of the Board of Education and Burke County Public Schools, we very, very much appreciated the county's support in utilization of CARES relief funding to purchase hotspots for students this school year. That's been a godsend, and those are being utilized throughout the county by students.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Gentlemen, you've heard Keith's report. Any questions for Keith on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain consensus to leave this on the consent agenda. Moe,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
Britton, and I vote yes. That'll be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thanks, Keith.
Yes, sir. And with the governor's concluding his meeting this afternoon at 2 and his recommendation for the resumption of in-classroom instruction, I'm going to excuse myself and head over to Olive Hill for a meeting with the superintendent.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
This brings us to item number 3, clerk appointment to Blue Ridge Community Action. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to appoint Michael Cloy to the Blue Ridge Community Action Board of Directors for seat number 1 for the remainder of a 2-year term ending December 15th, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? For consensus to leave this item on the consent agenda, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes, 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 4, reappointment to Foothills Regional Airport. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint Dennis Pearson to the Foothills Regional Airport Authority for the remainder of a 2-year term ending January 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Any question on this item? Hearing none for consensus, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
I vote yes, be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 5, authorization to execute, I'm not sure about LON, but that's probably some sort of local agreement between Burke County and Department of Army, 91st Civil Affairs Battalion. This will be presented by our county manager and Sergeant Butler. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We need to complete a letter of notification as required by our friends with the Civil Affairs Battalion. They have maybe an opportunity for them to come up, I think, later in the spring and possibly give us assistance and watch how we're doing things in response to COVID. And again, this is more of a just a routine matter of paperwork. You know, in the military, you can't do anything without paperwork. And I don't know if Sergeant Butler wants to add into that anything to further expand what I've said, but we look forward to them joining us and assisting if there's an opportunity later on as we deal with COVID here in Burke County.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. And hello, everyone. Yeah, simply the LON is the letters of notification, just simply stating that it's an agreement between your county and the U.S. Army in regards to working with civilian officials. Nothing, very, very low threat. It's just to give our commander an understanding of or put him at ease with the notion that we're going to be running simulated military operations in the community. But again, very, very low threat. We'll be in civilian clothes for the most of it, driving civilian cars. The extent of the letters of notification are to that we will ask a lot of questions and in hopes to get some training value from asking those questions that we could take downrange and when we deploy and kind of use that training to enhance our capabilities. So if you get one of those letters of notification, we'd appreciate it. If you guys can get that back to us so that we're actually allowed to speak with you on the behalf of the U.S. Army.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant. We appreciate you being with us today. Any questions for Brian or Sergeant Butler?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one point of interest I'd like to check on.
Okay.
Sergeant Butler, have you heard anything regarding Commissioner Abley and there have been some problems with his separation paperwork from the Army that they're going to have to reactivate him while you're here?
I may have heard some chatter about that. I can run that down for you if I need to. You just let me know.
Oh, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Abley, you better get some calisthenics in then, maybe.
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh, heck, he'd make a good looking service guy.
All right. I'll entertain consensus then for this item. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
No.
Taylor,
Yes.
and Britton. I'll vote yes. That'll be 4-1, Madam Clerk. This moves us to item number 6, General Services, resolution adopting 2019 local water supply plan presented by Brian Tart, our interim director. Brian, you out there?
I'm here.
All right, carry on.
This is local water supply. Let's see, local water supply. This is a resolution adopting the 2019 local water supply plan. This year's 2019 local water supply had been approved by the Division of Water Sources. This adoption following resolution is required. This resolution states that Burke County Board of Commissioners finds that the local water supply plan is in accordance with the provisions of North Carolina General Statute. And that it will provide appropriate guidance for the future management of water supplies for Burke County, as well as useful information to the Department of Environmental Quality for their development of a state water supply plan as required by statute. This is the first year we've had an approved water supply plan since 2016. So we're waiting for approval. So we need a resolution form signed to get this approved.
All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain consensus to leave this item on the consent agenda. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 7 on the consent agenda is General Services temporary mulch sale per load and per scoop, again presented by our interim director, Brian Tart. Brian?
Yes, this is for the temporary mulch sale per load and per scoop at the landfill. As you can see, the price at this point, and excuse me going back and forth the way my computer's set up for this meeting. It's kind of off where I can see you guys. I apologize. But so our current prices there of wood compost, a small pickup load is $10 a load. Standard pickup load is $15 a load. Trailers and large trucks is at $25 per scoop. We're requesting a temporary change for mulch fees at the landfill. They have a large quantity of mulch from last year and years prior. And we still have more mulch to grind, not too far from now. So we're looking to change the mulch fee schedule to wood compost, $5 for any size pickup and $10 for all trailers and large trucks. That'll be from February 17 to April the 30th of 2021. This will give us hopefully more sales that we can reduce the quantity we have of mulch at the landfill, which give us more room to do the grinding for this year.
All right, thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, any questions for Brian on this matter?
Yes, Brian, could you tell me what are you referring to when you say a big truck? Is that a double tandem truck? Is that a?
When we say big truck, like a small truck, like a little S10 truck, a bigger truck, a trailer's large truck would be like a tandem truck. Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no limit. If I wanted to come get 20 loads to put on my garden, there's no limit?
No limit. No, sir.
All right. Good deal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Hearing none, for consensus to leave this item on the consent agenda. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That'll be 5-0. Item number 8, JCPC, appointment of ADA Stephanie Renzelman. This will be presented by AJ Coutu. AJ, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, your JCPC council has a number of seats that are recommended by the state. And in seat number 4 for the designee of the district attorney was Andrea Plyler. this past year. However, as she has attained a judgeship, she is no longer an ADA, and she recommended Stephanie Renzelman, who is requesting to fill into that seat for the remainder of the 2-year term, which ends in June of 2022, if you so please. And I'll answer any questions you might have about that.
All right, thank you, AJ. Any questions on this matter? Hearing none, for consensus, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes. That'll be 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you for being here. Item number 9, this comes from PBHM, organizational name change and bylaws. That's Partners Behavioral Health, by the way. This will be presented by Dr. Katie Vanardo. Forgive me if I mispronounced your name, Katie. And we'll hear from you at this time.
Okay, so what I'm presenting to you today is a resolution, or name change resolution. And the resolution goes through basically why we're changing our name in response to North Carolina Medicaid transformation. So as part of that, we will be integrating pharmacy and medical health service, physical health services into our service array. So in response to that, we will be dropping the behavioral health portion from our name, and we'll just be Partners. So the resolution goes through that we're a multi-county local political subdivision of the state, operating as an LME MCO. The state of North Carolina is moving forward with Medicaid transformation to integrate physical, behavioral, and pharmaceutical health through standard plans and tailored plans. And we have applied to become, or to operate, a tailored plan, which, if awarded, we will start in July 1st of 2022. Partners Behavioral Health Management is the only LME MCO to retain behavioral in its name at this point. And Partners has operated since 2012 as Partners Behavioral Health Management, and since 2007 or earlier with Partners in its name. Previously, we were Mental Health Partners. Partners seeks by this resolution only to modify its name, but none of its powers, duties, structures, ownership, or other substantive aspects of its organization. So basically, our operations and our mission will remain the same. The only change is the name. The board approved this name change effective July 1st, 2020, and resolves that Partners in any reasonable variation thereof shall remain the doing business as, or DBA, name of the organization. And so that's basically all that I have to present to you guys today.
All right, thank you, Katie. Any questions on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain consensus to leave this on the consent agenda. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes, sir.
I vote yes. That'll be 5-0. Thank you again, Katie, for being here. This brings us to item number 10, Tax Department Tax Collection Report for January 2021. This will be presented by our tax administrator, Mr. Danny Eisenhower. Danny?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Property tax, I'll just work my way down. Property tax, we have collected 96.51%. Motor vehicles, 66.202%, which gives us a total collections on the budget of 93.64. Delinquent taxes, we have collected 80.43%. Late list penalties at 98.95%. And then property tax, not including motor vehicles based on the levy, not budget, we have collected 93.71%.
All right, Danny, thank you. Any questions for Danny on this item? Hearing none, for consensus, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes, sir.
and I vote yes, 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 11, Tax Department Release Refund Report for January 2021. Danny?
Okay, we had releases in the amount of $8,971.96. We had $201.30 rebuild, which give us a net release of $8,770.68. There are $5,532.46 in refunds. This is on the PTS, and on the vehicle tax, we had 0 on the refunds.
All right, thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danny on this item? Hearing none, for consensus, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 12, Tax Department, order to advertise 2020 delinquent real property taxes. Danny.
Okay. North Carolina General Statute 105-369 says that the tax collector shall report to the governing body the total amount of unpaid taxes for the current fiscal year that are liens on real property. And to that, I've given you the total amounts, real and personal, on this graph, which are the same as I just reported on the month. Under this statute, the board orders the tax collector to advertise these tax liens on all unpaid real property. Also, a notice must be sent to the owner of record. This notice shall be sent at least 30 days before the advertisement is to be published to the last known address. These notices state that the owner's name will be advertised if the taxes are not paid in full by Friday, February 26, 2021. The tax offices mailed these notices last week. Notice of the warning of the lien is also required to be published in the newspaper. So those will go on Sunday, February the 14th, February 21st, February 28th, and March 7th. And then those who have not paid their real estate taxes in full by February 26th of 21 will be advertised. The lien advertisement will then be published on Sunday, March the 14th, 2021. And there's a copy of the notice right there on the what it says. It'll go out each of those first Sundays, and then before letting you know that the lien advertisement is getting ready to go.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danny on this item?
Mr. Chairman, just one quick, Danny, does this create a lot of people coming in and paying taxes before it's too late?
We get a share. We do get a share of that, and sometimes you find out issues with taxes and everything else. But it's like the general public doesn't really care anymore if their name's in the paper. They pay them when they get ready.
Yeah, it doesn't embarrass them.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have quite a few that pay, and it's a good reminder. But there's still a ton of them that pay after the fact.
What does it cost us to run all 4 of them advertisements? Do we get enough to pay for that?
Oh, yes. Anyone's name that is advertised has a $5 lien advertising fee, and we do recoup all of our money.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
All right, any other question? For consensus on this item, Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
And I vote yes, 5-0. Item number 13, tax resolution authorizing a county line survey. This will be presented by Danny Eisenhower. Danny.
Okay. Just sort of read over the information here. The boundary lines for Burke County are common with Avery, Caldwell, Catawba, Lincoln, Cleveland, Rutherford, and McDowell counties. This boundary, although established and described in the book, The Formation of North Carolina Counties, 1663 to 1943, does not have many monuments on the ground that represent physical location. North Carolina Geodetic Survey was designated and funded by the North Carolina General Assembly to assist with resurveys of uncertain county boundaries. North Carolina General Geodetic Survey will do this research using references like mentioned above, along with legislation establishing county boundaries to determine where these boundaries are physically located. North Carolina Geodetic Survey will also do this research and survey work free of charge to the counties. To request this work, counties with common boundaries must adopt a resolution authorizing a county line survey. Locating these boundaries on the ground, although it may divide a taxpayer's land, is fair and more equitable to the taxpayer and the counties involved than the old practice of you take this one, I'll take that one. And to tell you what that is, that's long before me, whenever properties were split up, then that's really what they did. A lot of the assessors would say, okay, you take that. So the General Statute 10501 also county, so counties be taxing property that is not located within their
Danny, you're cutting out on us there. Can you check your microphone or?
He was dialed in on a phone. He may have to reconnect. I'll check on him.
Okay. We'll give him just a second and. Tell you what, while he's working on that, why don't we move on to item 14, Western Piedmont Community College presentation of financial data for the period ending December 31, 2020. Sandy, you have definitely drawn the short straw today. And so we'll hear you at this time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And if you have any trouble hearing me or actually need me to quieten down, let me know.
Hearing you loud and clear sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll give a brief summary of our finances through December 2020, the midpoint of our fiscal year. As with everything this past year, our expenses and activities have looked a lot different. We'll look at first at the state funds. While the General Assembly never passed a complete budget for us, we continued operating on the continuation budget with different mini bills coming through and adjustments for enrollments and benefits. We're looking forward to the long session in hopes of a beneficial budget for fiscal year 2022. Our formula budget is $14,572,086 with additional allocations so far this year of $1,929,662 for a total state budget of $16,501,748. Through December 31st, we've spent $7,552,003 or 45.8% of our budget. We have received $1,063,535 in CARES Act budget through our state funding for items such as counseling, tutoring, technology, PPE equipment, and supplies to assist dealing with the pandemic through our state funds. The next three columns in light blue represent the county budget and actual expenditures through December 31st. Our current budget is $2,667,110 for operations. We've received $1,285,946 of our budget and spent $1,236,412 through the second quarter, utilizing 46.4% of our budget. We have had savings this year in personnel cost as we have one full-time position that's vacant in our facility services. We've had reduction in the amount of part-time employees that we've needed so far this year, and then also the ability to use CARES Act funds for items normally purchased with county funds, allowing us to continue with needed repairs and modifications. The last three columns is our institutional budget. We budgeted $6,567,609 for our institutional funds, which includes categories such as student financial aid, grants, self-supporting courses, and our bookstore. Most of these accounts are restricted in nature by their designation. The total combined college budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 is $25,736,467, of which we have expended $11,866,979, or 46.1%, which is lower than previous years, mainly due to the addition of the CARES Act funding, the reduction in enrollment, and reduced capacity on campus. We also have large amount encumbered, more so than normal due to many purchases having longer lead times than expected. The main reason we've been given is COVID responses to that as well. If we can go to the next slide. Our next slide shows the breakdown of expenditures in categories. Our major expenditure is salaries and benefits at 18.6%, utilities at 19.1%, and contracted services at 12%. Insurance is shown here at 16.4%, but as you recall, we pay our insurance premiums annually at the beginning of the fiscal year. So as we move through the fiscal year, that will decrease in proportion to our expenses. So I wanted to take a little time to elaborate on the items that we've been able to move forward with given the pandemic. We did finish the roof replacement over E-Building and Patton Hall, which was in our capital budget request from the county in the previous year. In addition, this year, we're moving forward with the roof replacement over Carr Hall, which has had numerous repairs and was in need of replacement. The project is going to replace the roof, replacing the skylights, which have consistently been leaking, and installing a roof access within the building. We've been able to install iWave ionization machines directly linked to our HVAC units, which produces a high concentration of positive and negative ions, delivering them to the space via the ventilation system. Excuse me. The ionization process kills mold, bacteria, and viruses in the evaporator coil and throughout the breathing space. We also were able to update the HVAC unit in Pfeiffer Hall to include a dehumidifier system, which will be beneficial to the air quality, especially in the library in the Sam Irving Museum, where we have battled mold over the last several years. If you will recall, during our budget presentation from last year, we had requested the county to support the college in the construction of a new building for our trades program. Given where we are with the pandemic, we were asked to come back in January to discuss it in more detail. We do have an appointment with the county manager and finance director in the coming weeks, but I wanted to let you know where we are currently. As a reminder, we are asking for support of $1 million over 2 fiscal years, $500,000 each year, in support of the North Carolina Construction Trades Solution Center. This will not only house our curriculum programs, but continuing education, certifications, and partnerships within community agencies, both locally and regionally. We need a minimum of $6 million for building, understanding the volatile nature of construction costs that we're experiencing, but that's where we feel like we need to be. Our current sources for the $6 million include the remainder of the NC Connect bonds at $1.2 million, which is committed. Duke Energy is going to do some site work and land prep for a road that will cross our property. So in exchange for an easement there, we consider that to be a value of $500,000. The sale of the land to Homes Urban, which is $2 million. That is the current space where building construction is now. We are anticipating the closing to be mid-February for those funds. We're applying for a Golden Leaf grant where we're requesting $1.5 million. And then of course, the amount that we're requesting of Burke County, which is $1 million. The grant application for Golden Leaf needs to be submitted February the 11th, with the award being announced in April. This is a regional project that Golden Leaf did invite us to submit an application for. During March, they are going to need to verify the confirmation of the sources of funds that we have requested, mainly the sale of the land and what Burke County will commit. Also, if we're awarded in April, our plan is to proceed with the project beginning in May, unless we do not have the committed funds. So our partnership opportunities regionally and locally consist of Voc Rehab, where we're hoping to work with their clients in the trade programs. And then we're also engaged in conversations with CTE programs at public schools in 3 different counties to offer expanded opportunities. And we welcome other opportunities for our citizens through these programs. So I want to thank you again for your time this afternoon, and I'll be glad to answer any questions about our financial position.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. And again, thank you for hanging with us here till close to the end.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Sandy? Hearing none for consensus, I'll entertain a motion. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0. Thanks again, Sandy.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. We'll go back now to item 13. Danny, did you make it back?
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you now.
All right, good.
I think we got most of what you had to say. I think maybe down to where we needed to add additional counties, perhaps.
Okay. So I'm going to start in the middle here to begin with the process. To begin the process to determine the location of county boundaries, the following steps must be taken. Identify any uncertain boundaries, and so that's the first step. So Burke County, for Burke County, all the boundaries except for one are really unidentified. And that one was from Dobson's Knob down to the intersection of Shadrack's Creek and the old run of the Catawba River. Was adopted back in 2002. That is between Burke and McDowell counties. The next thing that we need to do, it says by statute, the Board of Commissioners must adopt a special commissioner of boundaries. Duties of this person are to supervise surveying, marking, mapping, and work with their counterpart from the adjoining county and representative of North Carolina Geodetic Survey. The prior resolution that we adopted listed myself in this position. Since the original resolution was adopted 18 plus years ago, the North Carolina Geodetic Survey recommends that we adopt a new resolution. The North Carolina Geodetic Survey will research the line location, report to the special commissioners for the counties involved, and present preliminary surveys of the county line or lines. Once the preliminary survey is accepted by the Board of Commissioners, authorized persons, the Geodetic Survey will place monuments on the ground and present a final survey for approval. After the final survey locating the lines is prepared, it is to be presented to the Board of Commissioners in each county for approval by resolution. Once the resolution is approved, the map of the surveyed line shall be recorded at the Register of Deeds in all counties involved and in North Carolina Secretary of State office. The recorded plat must contain references which reference dates the map was ratified, along with page in the board's minutes where the resolution can be found. Just to let you know that management and staff of Burke and McDowell counties met with North Carolina Geodetic Survey and North Carolina Department of Revenue representatives December 1st to discuss the line. This meeting went very well, and I think McDowell's already done their resolution, and Burke needs to redo our resolution. And in doing this, we also included all the counties surrounding Burke so that this resolution would stand for other counties as we proceed with getting this done. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Any questions for Danny on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one. Danny, how often do you place that monument in the line, the boundary line? Is it every 10 miles, 5 miles, or just any time it makes a turn?
If I remember correctly from prior conversations, we did not discuss that this time, but from prior conversations, anywhere that crosses a road, a major highway, maybe not a driveway or but where it crosses major highways, they will monument it somewhere close to that highway so that other surveyors and other people can pull baselines off of it. And then they may put monuments out in the middle of somewhere, just depending on what they feel is needed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's Johnny. Why are we waiting to 2021 to do this? I'm just curious as to why it was not done earlier.
I've worked on this project, as you can tell. The first time that we did a resolution was 2002, and it's been hard to get other counties to cooperate. It's just a large endeavor. Scott Black, myself, and the mapper at the time, Norman Long, talked to Catawba County years ago, to their manager, and they were just not interested in doing it. Reasons I've heard is it may change where somebody gets to vote, where their kids go to school, and some people just don't want to mess with that. But I think as we get more and more populated, I think it's really necessary that we do this kind of thing. And it's not something that'll happen overnight. This might be just on one county line, might be a couple year experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Hearing none, for consensus, Smalley,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That's 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I was
Yes.
trying to get your attention before you all took your consensus, is that at the request of the manager, we've included Catawba County in that resolution so that we could get the whole project done. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I thought that Danny just stated that they were going to include all the counties that bordered Burke County. Is that correct, Danny?
That's correct.
Okay, I think that would be covered under that.
Other questions? All right, is that vote still good for you, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, item number 6, decision items. We have no decision items to consider today. Item 7, reports. I'll just take a consensus vote to leave us the 2020 summary of accomplishments on there. Brian, any comment on that?
No, so we'll have everything to present for you at the meeting.
All right, thank you. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes, 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, item number 8, other items for consideration. Several courtesy reminders here. February 16th is our regular meeting. It will be in person in Commission Chambers. Please spay or neuter your pets, and the spring breeding season is right around the corner. Please consider fostering or adopting a pet from the Animal Services Center, and please help the environment by removing trash wherever you see it, and pick up trash anywhere you get a chance. Any comments from anybody before we adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, just one. It was kind of a pleasure to see all those people walking along I-40 and picking up trash this morning, but I felt for them for this cold, damp day. But it certainly is making the highway look a whole lot cleaner and prettier.
All right, thank you for that comment. Anybody else? All right, hearing nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do a roll call vote. Mulvey,
Yes.
Abley,
Yes.
Carswell,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That'll be 5-0 for adjournment. Gentlemen, hope you have a good evening. Thank you for hanging in there for a little bit of a lengthy meeting today, and we will look forward to seeing you later. Good night.
Good night. See ya.
Good night.